In this video, we're going to talk about select case statements, which are the other main conditional statement. So we looked at if statements in the last video, and they allowed us to write some code if a certain condition is true. Now we're going to have a different way of doing the same thing. So a select case statement, let's look at the syntax of it. And it's the same thing. You give an expression here. So here's the syntax. You write the keyword select case, and then you give it an expression to evaluate. And then you write the word case below it, and then a condition. And if this condition 1 is equal to the expression, then you're gonna do something. And you could then below that write another case keyword and do a condition 2, and if the condition 2 is equal to the expression, then you're going to do something. And then you end it with case else, which is not going to evaluate, it's not going to compare the expression to any condition. It's just going to do something if you don't fall into these first two conditions. This select case statement, a lot of people don't use it because they think it's tricky, and the syntax isn't as intuitive as an if statement. The if statement language is very intuitive. If this value is greater than 5, then do this. End if. It's very intuitive. The select case statement is not as intuitive because it doesn't read like you would talk. The if statement reads like you would talk. If this, then that, then do something. A select case doesn't read like that. But don't freak out about it. It's just a different syntax. It's doing the same exact thing. It's just evaluating something. So let's look at it. Nothing to freak out about. It's just a different way of testing a condition. So let's use our data that we just looked at. Here again, we're gonna return a tax rate for people with salaries and people with kids and without kids, and we're going to return different tax rates. So let's write some code now. So I'm going to go into the editor. I'm going to insert a module. I'll call this module. I'll go up here to properties. Call this module select case, and now we can write some code. And here's our first bit of code. First thing I'm going to do is write option explicit. Oops. And now let's write a function. Function get tax rate, select case. And again, I'm going to take a parameter that is going to be of data type double. And the function is going to return something that is double. It's going to return a tax rate, so that's going to be double. And now I can write my select case statement. And as we just saw, it starts out with the keyword select case, and then you give it an expression to evaluate. In this case, I wanted to evaluate this salary variable, so I'm just going to do select case salary. And now, as we just saw, you put the keyword case, and then you give it a condition. So my condition is going to be is greater than 5,000, and this is a keyword. That's a keyword. And if it is greater than 5,000, then I want it to do some code. I want it to return a tax rate. So there I'd be get tax rate is equal to 25%. And then I'm just going to put case else down here because we're going to start out with a simple example. Get tax rate, select case is equal to 0. And then you do end select. So this is a select case statement. You notice the keywords select case. Those are both keywords. case is a keyword. Is a keyword, and I'm using is in the expression. Case else, those are both keywords, and end select, those are keywords. And you need the end select down here to end the select case statement. You need the case keywords here. But what's going on here? Well, you're just going to evaluate salary, and then the case is sort of like saying, does it meet this condition? Is it this case? Is it the case that the salary is greater than 5,000? If it is, then you're going to do this code. If it's not the case that the salary is greater than 5,000, then you're going to fall into the case else, and you're going to do this code. So let's just see that real quick. I'm going to go to the worksheet, and just going to do equals get tax rate select case, put in a salary, hit enter. When I hit enter, notice the salary variable is equal to 3,000. So it's evaluating 3,000, and it's going to go to the next line, and it's going to say is salary is 3,000 greater than 5,000, and that evaluates to false, so it's not going to do this code. It's only going to do that code if the expression evaluates to true. Since it doesn't, it goes to the next line, case else, and that case else doesn't evaluate anything. It just says do this code. So it's going to do that code, and you're going to get a tax rate of 0. So salary is not greater than 5,000 up here, so it falls into this code here. If it was greater than 5,000, it would fall here, and that would be it. So I can run this and go back to the worksheet, and I get 0 for a salary of 3,000. If I drag this down, I get 25, or I get 25% for all the salaries that are over 5,000. If I put in 5,001 here, I get 25. If I put 4,999, I get 0. So that's all the select case does. It's another way of testing a condition and doing some code if that condition is met. We can also, in these conditions here, we can also set ranges. So now I'm going to just copy this function, and I'm going to change the name of it to select case 2, and I'm going to change this expression to say, instead of is greater than, I'm going to do 5,001 to, I'll just do 5,000. 5,000 to 40,000. And I guess I'll do this. So now, what did I do? I just changed a couple things. The expression that I'm going to, or not the expression, the condition that I'm going to look at in regard to the salary variable is that does it fall between this range 5,000 and 40,000? And if it does, if that evaluates to true, if salary is in between this range, then I'm going to execute this code. If it's not, if it's anything outside that range, then I'm going to execute, give it 10%. And so if we run this code, equals get tax rate select case 2, put in a salary, anything outside of the range 5,000 to 40,000. Oops, I didn't assign it to the function name. Just moving a little bit too fast, sorry about that. I just have to change this name to match the name of the function. That's all you have to do. So if I go back to the worksheets, hit enter, I get 10%, because anything outside of the range 5,000 to 40,000 is going to give me 10%. This is the only salary that is in between 5,000 and 40,000. If you put in 40,000 here, you get 25%. If you put in 40,001, you get 10%. If you put in 4,999, you get 10%. If you put in 5,000, you get 25%. Or anything between 5,000, like 9,000, you get 25%. So that's all that select case function does, or this function here. I just showed you how to use this range if you need to put numbers in ranges. The last thing we're going to look at is a nested select case. So we can copy this function, and this is just like a nested if statement. Get tax rate select case nested, I want to call it. And let me change the name here to nested. Change the name here to nested. And now, how is this going to look? Well, let's set up a couple different ranges, like 5,001 or 5,000 to 40,000. Let's also do 40,000 and $1 to 90,000. And let's also do something like this. Another case that says is greater than 90,000. In that case, I want to do something, and then I'll do case else. Get tax rate selected is 0. Okay, so here's my main case statement, my select case statement. Notice what I have. I have 3 conditions, or 3 conditions, and I'm applying this salary variable to each condition and saying, does salary fall between this range? And if it does, I'm going to do something. I'm going to write some code. And if it's not, then I'm going to test this other condition. Is salary between this range? And if it is, I'm going to write some code here. And if it's not, still doesn't meet that condition, then I'm going to test this condition again. Then I'm going to write some code here. And if it doesn't meet any of these 3 conditions, then I'm going to return 0 as my tax rate. So what code are we going to write here? Well, we can write another select case statement like this. And this is a nested select case statement. So select case has kids. And then you could do something like this. Case yes. You could make the tax rate, just like we did in the other video, equal to 15%. Case else. So this is pretty much what we're doing in what we did in the last video. We're making a nested conditional statement, and I need to add a parameter here for the has kids variable, has kids as string. So look what we have now. We have a main select case, and within each condition we're evaluating the salary variable, and it's going to make a decision, where do we fall with the salary variable. And then once it falls into a condition, we're going to do another select case on the has kids variable. So we're going to do select case, evaluate this expression. The expression is has kids, and look at it compared to this condition, yes. And if has kids is equal to yes, then assign it this tax rate. If has kids is not equal to yes, then fall into the case else and give it 25%. So let me just copy this bit of code here, because I'm going to put it in these other places. And now, once again, the indentation becomes important. and I'm going to assign a tax rate here if you're between 40,000 and 90,000 of 28% and 35%. Just so I'm trying to get the indentation so you could see it better. And I'll just copy this. 42 and 45. So now we have a nested select case statement. And let's just put a breakpoint here and run this once so we can see what's happening. This is going to be equals get select case nested. 3000 is my salary variable, and I'm going to pass in a has kids variable or parameter there. So you need two parameters, a salary and a has and whether they have kids or not. And once you hit enter, you fall into the function, and notice down here salary has the value 3000 and has kids has the value yes. So let's step through this. The first thing we're going to do is look at the expression that is in, look at the expression of the salary variable, and we know that's 3000. So now 3000 is going to be looked at in each case. Is salary in between 5,000 and 40,000? No. So what's going to happen? Well, it's just going to jump over to the next line, the next case. It's going to say is salary between 40,000 and $1 to 90,000. Well, no. So it's going to again jump down to the next case and evaluate the 3,000. Is 3,000 greater than 90,000? No. So it's going to fall into the case else, and it falls into 0. And if we keep stepping through, go back to the worksheet, we see that it has 0 in it. Now if I drag this down, look what happens. When I drag it down, salary has the value 40,001, and has kids has the value no. That's because when I dragged it, it evaluated this row here with this salary and this value for the has kids. So now I'm looking at 40,001 is the salary and has kids is equal to no. So again, the expression you're evaluating in this first case statement is the salary, so 40,001, and it's going to apply, it's going to look at the salary in regard to each case. So here's the first case, is $40,001 in between this range, 5,000 to 40,000. Nope, it's off by $1. So it's going to go down here. Is 40,001 in this range? And the answer is yes. Now it's going to step through the code below, and the code below is another select case statement, which is going to look at the has kids expression, which we know has the value no in it, and so it's going to say, it's going to apply the has kids expression in each case and say is the has kids variable equal to yes? That answer is no, it's false. So it's going to skip over that line, and it's going to go into the has kids, the case else line here. So if you hit step into, it's going to put 35 into the result of the function, and then it's going to end the select. It's going to end this select, this select statement, and then it's going to jump down to the end selects for the outer select statement. And there, let me get rid of this breakpoint. If I just click run, so now we get 35% for the 40,001 with no kids. If you do have kids, watch what happens. If you do have kids, if I change this to yes, let me go Alt F11. Again, I have to change. I'm not getting the answer I want because I didn't put my I always do lowercase yes, and they should be upper. So let's go back here. Make sure that if you use capital letters here and then you want to match it to something in code, like I want to match the word yes, they need to match uppercase and lowercase. So here I have a capital Y E S, and that means here when I go to test condition, I need a capital Y E S. So now if I put in no for 40,000 for this, okay, so if you make $40,001 and you have kids, you get charged 28% for your tax. If you don't have kids, you get charged 35%. If you make 5,000 and you have kids, you get charged 15%. If you don't have kids, you get charged 25%. So you can see, all we're doing again is evaluating conditions. Well, actually, in the select case, you're evaluating an expression, and you're looking at the expression, whatever it is. In our case, it's a variable, and then you're applying it to different cases and saying, is that case true? And if it's true, then you're going to do something. It's very similar to an if statement. A lot of people use select case statements because they are shorter in terms of writing code. So this is probably less code than you would write. Well, would it be case? Well, it could be less code than an if statement, especially when it comes to multiple cases, like multiple select cases. So that's all a select case statement is. Again, it's just evaluating an expression and then looking at that expression, comparing it to conditions. And those conditions are called cases, and finding out which case is true, and then doing the code where the case is true. Look at, play around with these functions. You're going to have this workbook, or you should have it, and step through it, step through the code, look at what's going on behind the scenes. And again, here's the basic structure of the if statements and the basic structure of the select case statements if you need that. And then here's all the functions that we did for the if statements and the select case statements. And you can make them the same if you want. So that's it for the select case statements. Now your coding skills are pretty powerful now, because now you can test conditions, and you could test very complex conditions with multiple scenarios. Like if this is true, or if this is true, and if this is true, because you can use the logical operators like if and you can do multiple if statements and nested if statements. So your coding skills are growing. Now what we're going to do next is talk about loops, and this is where your coding like exponentially gets more powerful, because now you can do the same task 1,000 times, 100,000 times, 1,000,000 times. And we'll talk about loops in the next section.